Happy Monday morning. Welcome in. Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. Brendan Glasheen, joined by Action Network MLB writer and one of our best contributors in baseball, Sean Zerillo. We're diving into Monday's slate. We've got 10 games on the docket on this Monday. Pretty straightforward show. Not a whole lot going on. There is some award stuff we want to get to at the end. I think it's a kind of a fascinating last couple of weeks as it pertains to the best record in Major League Baseball that we have to keep our eyes out for, really with the Phillies and the Dodgers for that 1 seed in the National League. And we'll do a Paul Skeens minute. I know we did that on Friday, but we want the latest update from Sean and where he feels that Rookie of the Year award could be going. We'll touch on American League Rookie of the Year, and we'll get you out of here on this Monday morning. We're back to morning records. If you are kind of hopping back in and not fully back on board with us, we're going to do Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays here to wrap up the regular season. More to come when we get more familiarity and understanding of what the schedule looks like for the postseason. But typically, over the last couple of years, when we do MLB postseason here for Payoff Pitch, we're on every day there's a game during the week, Monday through Friday. And then we'll have written content in the app and actionnetwork.com. So more to come on that once we wrap the month of September. Sean, your best bet encapsulates a lot. We normally do a Fade the Public segment. You're doing that here with your best bet. And your favorite underdog play. So give us the game and give us the side.
Pirates and Cardinals, taking the Cardinals at plus 115 or better, projected this line closer to plus 107, going against Paul Skeens. Now, I was betting on Paul Skeens when he first came up to big leagues, and that's kind of been the trajectory of a player going from undervalued to overvalued. And I think you can imagine at this point that there is not much betting value on Paul Skeens blindly, right? Books are probably going to overinflate the lines against them. He's been profitable to this point, both for the first 5 innings and the full game. So he's not been profitable to straight bet against Paul Skeens every time out. But he cannot pitch all 9 innings of the game, and the Pirates do not have a good bullpen. In fact, in the second half, the Pirates are 30th in strikeout minus walk rate, or 30th in expected FIP, 27th in strikeout minus walk rate, 26th by both pitching plus and BOT ERA. The Cardinals are closer to league average by the actual underlying results, top 3 by pitch modeling metrics. So the Cardinals on paper have a substantially better bullpen. The Pirates yesterday also threw David Bednar and Cameron Mudzinski. It's an impossible name to say. Cameron Mudzinski, clearly a guy whose family did not come through Ellis Island, or they would have chopped the M off the front of that name. Incredibly difficult name to pronounce. I have no difficulty pronouncing it in my head when I read it, but saying Mudzinski out loud, I mean, just pure tongue-tied. But so normal bullpen advantage for the Cardinals. 2 of the Pirates' best relievers have worked on consecutive days. Not that Bednar has been particularly good this season. He's been straight up awful. And Chapman has sort of assumed the 9th inning duties for them. But bullpen advantage for St. Louis. And I think Andre Palante is a guy who gets underrated in betting markets because he doesn't strike anybody out. The projections, the BOT ERA, the pitch modeling metrics all say he's a below average starter, 96 pitching plus, 4.8 BOT ERA. Projections are in the mid to high 4s. But he keeps the ball on the ground and he avoids barrels. He's had a 3.5% barrel rate across 3 years of pitching in the big leagues. So it's not something that, pitching models are really going to quantify or you're going to see show up in the strikeouts, but he generates weak contact for whatever reason. I don't know if it's his attack angle. I don't know if it's the movement on his pitches, but for whatever reason, batters cannot square him up. And that barrel rate remains in the 98th, 97th percentile amongst all pitchers in Major League Baseball. And that ground ball rate remains in the 97th, 98th percentile amongst all pitchers. So even though Palante can't get the strikeouts, he does get a lot of double plays after giving up walks or base hits to erase those runners. Cardinals aren't as good defensively as they used to be, but they're still a pretty functional team. So Palante definitely meshes with what the Cardinals are trying to do, which is get weekly hit outs. That is their pitching philosophy as an organization. Eventually they may go back or they may progress towards actually finding guys with stuff. But surprisingly, their bullpen does rank very highly in stuff. They've had, a pretty good back end unit all year, high leverage unit all year with Kittredge and Fernandez and Helsley. So, in a close game, I prefer the Cardinals late inning relievers. Absolutely prefer their high leverage relievers. Let's talk about Paul Skeens for a second, because Skeens was a guy I was betting against more so a month ago, then kind of stopped. Now betting against him here in this spot. His velocity has come back up, and I think there's a chance now that he pitches through the end of the season. He would only have 3 more starts the rest of the way. He's at 129, or he's at 147 professional innings this season. He tossed 129 last year between college and the minors. But as I said, the velocity has come back up. He's been at 99 and 99.3 in his past 2 starts. Those are his highest levels since mid-June. He dipped to 97.7. That was his season low in August. It's come back up again. So 3 more starts left at most. Maybe this is it for him. I'm not so sure, though. The one thing I do want to mention, you see like the great time through the order splits for Skeens, pretty much the same. In fact, he gets better third time through the order, but first time, second time through, pretty much the same. But that's results. The strikeout rate has taken a big dip each time he faces the lineup, and that's pretty common for pitchers, but he just hasn't gotten hit as much the third time through yet as he probably should. I've seen him leave the game a lot with the bases loaded in the 5th inning or the 6th inning, straining those runners for sure. He's getting out of those jams, but eventually those runners are going to cash in. So 35% strikeout rate first time through, 16% third time through, 25% right in the middle between first and third time. So I think at some point Skeens is going to get hit, third time facing a lineup. He's gotten out of a lot of trouble, pitched himself out of a lot of trouble, but at some point those runners are not going to get stranded. And then just with regard to his rookie of the year chances, he stole a full win behind Jackson Merrill, 3.6 versus 4.6 wins above replacement. And as I discussed last week, both on Payoff Pitch and Green Dot Daily, if the voters stick to the same criteria they used 2 years ago, right, where Spencer Strider finished with a higher WAR total than Michael Harris, but Michael Harris still got 18 and 30 first place votes, Jackson Merrill is a runaway favorite here. He'll get 2/3 of the votes. However, if Skeens pitches 3 more times, if Skeens gets his ERA under 2, given all the hype he's had all year, I think the odds are off, right? Because Skeens went from a minus 2,000, minus 9,000 favorite. The straw polls coming into September, 18 days ago, had him getting 19 of the 30 first place votes. Yes, it flipped, but how much did it flip? Is it still 50-50? I think if Skeens pitches out the rest of the way, I think if his ERA is still in the low 2s, I think it's pretty close to 50-50. So Skeens right now, plus 420. That is a number I'm staring at and considering taking. It was plus 450 last night. I put it in my article. I'm sure somebody ended up betting it, seeing that he would be starting today, and it's likely to move in, if he continues to pitch well. Yes, I bet on the Cardinals, but I'm still interested in maybe sprinkling Skeens just to hedge my Jackson Merrill ticket. Getting them at, plus 450, plus 500, respectively, I don't think is necessarily a bad position to take. If you followed my content over the past 5 years, I do not hedge positions, but this is one I'm having a difficult time getting a read on how the voters are actually going to vote. As I said, if they vote how they voted 2 years ago, it's clear Merrill. But if Skeens starts the rest of the way, if he makes those 3 more starts, I do think it's going to be pretty much 50-50. So wouldn't mind having, plus 450, plus 400 or higher on both guys. I don't think that's a bad position to be in. I would probably, still overweight myself or want to be overweight towards Merrill. Probably take like a quarter unit on Skeens, so half unit on Merrill at 5-1 to win 2.5 units, and then a quarter unit on Skeens at 4-1, 20 unit, and profit a half unit if he wins over Merrill.
And just road mapping it, it's not quite a perfect path, but maybe betting the Cardinals today is kind of like betting on Jackson Merrill in some ways. I mean, that's if Skeens blows up, but as you said, he's throwing the ball harder last couple starts, and it's not a perfect.
Yeah, it's that first day, so from a live betting perspective too, he's so good that first time through the order. Is it that set a 35% strikeout rate, drops to 16% by the third time through. So
interesting. Not
even something you necessarily have to bet pregame. If the Cardinals are down 1-0 after 3 innings, I'm still just as interested as I was pregame. This comes down to the bullpens for me. So yeah, keep an eye on the live line, keep an eye on the early scoring. But if the Cardinals fall down 1-0 before Skeens faces the order, second time, third time, yeah, jump in live on St. Louis.
Last 2 starts for Skeens, 100 pitches at the Cubs and 98 pitches against the Marlins. So they're extending him a bit. I mean, 5 innings and 6 innings, and respectively in those starts.
Yeah, they gave him 6 days of rest. They could have started him on Sunday. Yep. So he got the extra day of rest today, And then presumably his next 2 starts would be at Cincinnati. And then if he makes one more, it would either be versus Milwaukee or at the Yankees in the Bronx. So would be cool to see him make his final start of the year against Judge and against Soto in the Bronx in a game that the Yankees probably need. But we'll see if he gets that far. And I'm trying, before I fire on him, I'm trying to do some information gathering to see today, like, is this going to be his final start? I mean, there still is a chance that it is, and they just haven't said so. But every time he starts, it seems likelier that they're just going to let him finish out the season. And given the velocity trend back upward, that's an encouraging sign. When it was, going down every start, it seemed inevitable that he would get shut down. But the bounce is, obviously giving the Pirates some encouragement.
Oh, and like you just said, if they manage it, right, if they can give him a day,
Mm-hmm.
then I guess you could they could figure it out to have it so he makes 2 more starts.
Yeah, he could definitely just pitch on 7 days rest and still make 2 more starts even after today. They have enough schedule left to allow him to do that. And as I said, he'd probably still face Cincinnati and the Yankees either way. But it's really a question of, like, do they keep him on regular rest? Then he faces the Brewers at the end, and the Brewers would be qualified for the playoffs at that point. We'll get to that in a second at the end of the podcast. But yeah, probably last start against the Yankees in the Bronx. That would be fun.
Yeah, let's do that now. You've got a total look between the Brewers and the Phillies. That this could be very well a playoff series preview at some point down the line. I thought it was interesting to look markets available for the best record. Right now, the Phillies are minus 165 to finish with the best record. You get a short underdog price on the Dodgers. But this is a big series just to kind of get an understanding of the landscape. I mean, I realize that it's not going to be as high leverage as October, but you get a pretty good idea of what we're looking at. Ranger Suarez pitching for the Phillies, Aaron Savale for the Brewers. What's your look in this game?
I think I'd take the Dodgers for best record of plus money. The Dodgers have 6 left against the Rockies and 3 left against the Marlins. So Dodgers plus money for best record might be the bet. As far as Brewers and Phillies, I do like the under. I projected this total at 7.45. So the under 8 to minus 110. Rangers Suarez gotten hit a little bit since coming back from the IL, but his metrics have not dipped enough where I'm super concerned about his effectiveness. Now, if you go back through his last few seasons, you see the increase in the improvement in performance and then the decrease in performance. And a lot of it is related to how healthy Rangers Suarez has been. When he was healthy in the first half, unbelievably elite. Then he went on the IL with a back issue. Since he came back, his ERA is over 4. But the underlying results and the underlying pitch modeling metrics are down, but they're not down to the point where I'm like, this guy is a big injury concern or, a big risk going forward. So the fastball is down from 92 to 91.3. The sinker down from 90.9 to 90.2. So the pitches are down nearly a mile an hour, but not quite a full mile an hour, about 0.7. Stuff plus from 83 to 76. Location plus remains the same, 104 in both pre-IL and post-IL. 101 versus 101 versus 100 pitching plus, and then the body array has climbed from 383 to 405. So he's a quarter run worse than he was previously. He's not 100%, still dealing with the back issue, but also the performance decline is like losing half a mile an hour off your fastball. I've said this before on podcasts, but losing a tick on your fastball is like losing a half a run on your ERA. If you're a 3.5 ERA pitcher, you lose a tick on your fastball, you should pitch closer to 4. Suarez has lost 0.7 of a mile an hour on his fastball. His body array has gone up by a quarter run. Seems pretty comparable, right? Now, with the Brewers, with the Phillies, good bullpens on paper. The Phillies have been, or the Brewers have been the better team in the second half since the trade deadline. Devin Williams has been great for them. The strikeout rate is really high. The Phillies tend to get their crappy relievers, their B relievers, out into games when they're behind or when they have big leads. So Rob Thompson has done a phenomenal job managing that bullpen and saving his best relievers for the days where it is important. And it seems like these bullpens are relatively well rested for today. I project all the high leverage relievers as being ready and available for this contest. So the under 8 in Milwaukee. But I want to mention Milwaukee is the closest team to clinching. Their magic number to win the NL Central is down to 3 games. So there's a chance that they clinch it this week. I'd say a pretty high chance that they clinch it this week. between now and Friday. So I want to toss out there our first potential hangover game could be happening this week. But I don't really think it's going to be a hangover game because Milwaukee is still 2 games behind the Dodgers, whatever it is, 3.5 games behind the Phillies.
Yep.
For second and first place in the National League in terms of playoff seeding. They're still playing for that bye. So even if the Brewers clinch the division tomorrow, Wednesday, I wouldn't bet the hangover game against them the day in advance because they're still going to be playing for divisional seeding. I would start or for National League seeding, and they still may throw out their A lineup the next day. I'd say it's more likely than not they'll continue to play their A lineup the next day and stay locked in. So it seems like we may get a hangover game soon, but I don't think it's going to be with the Brewers when they immediately clinch the NL Central, which is pretty much upcoming. I think they have a 10-plus game lead. And as I said, that magic number over the Cubs down to 3 games. So just be wary of that. Do not fire immediately against the Brewers the following day when they do clinch the NL Central, because they'll probably still play their best lineup trying to catch up with the Phillies and Dodgers.
And I realize it sounds obvious to a listener. No kidding, you'd want the bye. Again, as Sean said, the top 2 in each league get buys. Third place team, or the third best record in each league, is playing wild card week. But with the Brewers, knowing their deficiencies in their starting rotation, you want to. I would think the bye matters so you can manage your pitching going into October. If they had a couple of horses at the top of their rotation, they might say, "Eff it, we'll play whenever we have to play." I think a bye would be very, very valuable for a team like that.
Especially, the Brewers and the Guardians have really been grinding on their bullpen all year because they don't have much starting pitching depth. So they just need the rest for their bullpen too, because you're not going to be able to bullpen it all the way through the playoffs with an extra wild card round to get through as well. It just seems like it's putting extra tax on a bullpen. The Brewers and the Guardians, or I haven't checked how the Brewers splits have fallen in the second half. As I said, they've been like a top 3 bullpen by pitch modeling. I'm not sure how that compares to the first half. I think they've improved just because Williams has come back, but it doesn't seem like they've fatigued in the numbers. The Guardians bullpen is clearly fatigued. I talked about the other day, they were first and second in expected FIP and strikeout minus walk rate in the first half. They're closer to 15th in both categories in the second half. So yeah, I think hugely important for those teams to try to play for buys if they can. I don't think either one, I should say, I don't think the Brewers will get there. It seems like the Guardians might. They're going to have to hold off Houston. So that buy is going to be very big for Cleveland. But yeah, to your point, if Milwaukee can get there too, it just saves their bullpen. And I don't know if they have enough starting pitching in a 5-game series to, go up against most teams, but they've been frisky all year. They've been underrated all year, and anything can happen in a short series in the playoffs, especially when you have a very good bullpen. So yeah, I doubt Milwaukee overtakes the Phillies or the Dodgers for the second seed. But just to go back to your point about the Dodgers being plus money for best record, they have the easier schedule than the Phillies the rest of the way. They have 3 against the Padres, 1 against the Braves, 3 against the Marlins, 6 against the Rockies. They have the second easiest schedule the rest of the way. The Phillies have the 9th most difficult schedule the rest of the way. 3 against the Brewers, 4 against the Mets, 3 against the Cubs, 3 against the Nats. So I'm a little interested in that Dodgers at plus money.
Plus 125 to finish with the best record in 2024. Phillies current price minus 165. And Sean gave you the schedules. One more thing before we go. You wanted to weigh in on, and we did this a little bit at the end of last week, American League Rookie of the Year. Luis Gil is now at plus 140. I think the number was closer to plus 120 when we last spoke on this. You have a position on Wells, is that right?
Yeah, Wells at 70-1 from the preseason. I put him in the same article as Jackson Merrill at 70-1, but I didn't sprinkle Merrill because I thought Yamamoto would be the runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year, and that did not happen. And Skeens actually ended up becoming the runaway favorite for Rookie of the Year, and I would have been very mad about my Jackson Merrill 70-1 ticket, but yeah, Merrill ended up fighting his way back into the race. So with regard to the AL Rookie of the Year, I am surprised to find Luis Gil as the favorite. I think he's playing the best of the 3 among Wells and Cowser right now. Wells and Cowser are both kind of slumping in September. Cowser specifically, I think I'd bet Cowser of the 3, though. I think Cowser probably is the most value of the 3. He has a big counting stats advantage over Wells. Their WAR total is the same. Defensively, he's a really strong outfielder. especially if you go by outs above average instead of defensive runs saved. Outs above average thinks Cowser is like an elite defensive outfielder. And most of Wells' value is tied to his catcher defense, which, depending on which resource you use, thinks he's one of the best defensive catchers or like just a pretty good defensive catcher. So I think the counting stats advantage for Cowser probably helps him over Wells. And then it comes down to Cowser. I mean, I'm saying as of right now, assuming the season stopped right this moment, forget production the rest of the way. I think Wells is the likelier of the two to produce the rest of the way. But yeah, I'm surprised to find a pitcher who is a full win in wins above replacement ahead of two hitters who have been there. Not that Wells has been there all year, but I just don't get the argument why Hill should be favored. I'm just surprised to find him in pole position. I think like at best, you kind of line all these two the same the rest of the way and let it play out. But both hitters are slumping. Otherwise, I'd probably pick one of them. But yeah, I think Cowser amongst the three offers the best value, considering I might handicap him as the favorite, right now. And he's third on the odds board. So it's just the numbers play, really. It's whoever amongst the three, or I guess not if Heel was third amongst the three, because that's probably where I'd line him. But whoever between Wells and Cowser had the highest odds, I think would be the bet or the value bet at this point. And I'd probably lean Cowser. I just want to mention there's one more game, D-backs and Rockies. I bet the over 11 last night. My total projection did move down from about 11.5 to 11.1 as of this morning. The market is moving up though towards 11.5. I've seen some 11.5s offshore. I've seen some juiced, 11s domestically. 11 even money under. I think this does go to 11.5 eventually. I'm probably going to buy back on the 11.5 under. So we have some over 11 and then under 11.5. We'll try to get this game to land on 11. I don't know if I'll do a full middle, but definitely going to take a piece off of the over 11. I had to lower the projection today. I'm still comfortable with the over 11, but I would like to try to get a piece of under 11.5 if I can.
Okay. Very good. And maybe, I'm just guessing, Luis Heel gets Seattle Tuesday and high strikeout rate team. And then he would get Oakland, and he avoids Baltimore. That series you've got circled next week. Yankees hosting the Orioles, so he would avoid Baltimore, but he would pitch at Seattle and at Oakland. That's what it currently lines up to be this week.
I almost want to place like an if bet. I don't think you can, but like an if Luis Heel wins NL or AL Rookie of the Year, to have it trigger a Skeens NL Rookie of the Year bet, because it seems almost impossible that voters would give it to Heel and not give it to Skeens. Right? Point. Like Heel is way behind the guys he's compared to, where Skeens is at least like, I mean, not way I guess they're both a win behind their competition. But in my mind, Skeens is much closer to Merrill than Heel is to Cowser or Wells. Now Heel's ERA is in the low threes. He's pitched incredibly well. I'm just going by WAR totals here, but yeah, I just feel like there's some sort of correlation between Heel getting the votes and Skeens getting the votes that I would like to bet if I could. So if you could place an if bet on Heel winning, it triggering Skeens to win, that's kind of how I feel like the correlation would go.
That introduces what you talked about last week. Are we going to now have 4 Rookie of the Year awards, a pitcher and a hitter in each league? Because that could trigger it going forward. If Heel wins American League Rookie of the Year and Paul Skeens finishes in second place behind Jackson Merrill.
Yeah, obviously it's not something they're going to be able to introduce this season, but I do feel like, given how this year played out, and also like it's something else they could get sponsored, right? Something else for Major League Baseball to slap a sponsor tag on. I don't know. They had the Rolaids Relief Award. I don't know if Rolaids still sponsors, but yeah, the Young Guns Starting Pitcher of the Year Award or Rookie Pitcher of the Year Award. They'll come up with some sort of sponsor to slap on that thing. But yeah, it seems inevitable that they would split the Rookie of the Year to pitching and hitting. Maybe even do. I don't know if I'd rather one for each league, like rookie pitcher and rookie hitter for each league, or if I'd rather a rookie pitcher of the year for Major League Baseball and a rookie hitter of the year for Major League Baseball. That might be interesting to me as well. Like just one rookie pitcher, one rookie hitter for the entirety of Major League Baseball. There's no division between the American League and National League anymore. It's just one big league at this point.
Yeah, and interleague play is normal now. We have it every year.
One big league.
All right. Well, if Sean wants to stop working at Action Network, maybe one day he's the commissioner of baseball. He can change it. Everything he needs to change, especially in the award market. All right, find Sean in the Action app at Zerillo as we come down the wire here in this baseball season. Leave your 5-star ratings and reviews. We're looking forward to these last couple weeks. And then, like I said earlier, we will get you set for the postseason just 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from today, I believe, right? Yeah. The last day of the season, or that Sunday the 20 or the 30th. The 30th is the last day, or the 29th is the last day of the season. So
this will be the day in between the regular season and playoffs 2 weeks from today. So this will be our gap day. We'll be putting out the playoff content, the playoff previews 2 Mondays from today, I believe, and then the playoffs start 2 weeks from tomorrow.
Excellent. All right, very good. For Sean Zerillo, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for tuning in. We're back Tuesday, September 17th for Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast. You all have a great start to your week, and we'll talk to you again on Tuesday.